Hello, I'm Loren Sederstrom. I'm the host of the All Around Grant Show. Today I have my co-host with me, Larry Lanou, and I think we have kind of an exciting action-packed show for you today. We're going to be doing our little fluff pieces on the car shows again, and then we're going to be going through about 3-4 different subjects. So why don't we start rolling right off the top? I went to, I go to car shows in the summer and interview people with interesting vehicles. And why don't we play the first clip on a beautiful 34 Ford Roadster. Today we're at Northern Lakes Car Show in beautiful downtown Hugo, and I'm talking with Don Opp. How are you doing, Don?
Good, thanks.
And he has a very unusual, very desirable 1934 Ford Roadster. Now, this was only made, I believe, for about 1 or 2 years. It has the suicide doors. Is that right?
That's right.
Can you tell us, first of all, Don, tell us where you found this car.
Well, first of all, I had seen the car in North St. Paul, and then we went overseas, my wife and I, and then a fellow from Echo, Minnesota bought it, and then I purchased it from him many years ago, when I was 34 years old, so that looks like a little while back.
Well, at least you got 34 years ago price on it. That was important.
That's right, that helps.
Now, this is a highly desirable car because there weren't many of them made. It has the suicide doors, it has the rumble seat, and it also is a V8, one of the early V8s, is that right?
Right.
Now, I noticed you have a very special hood ornament. Is that something that was added or special, or tell us about that?
That was a Greyhound, and they did make them in 34. It was an optional thing back in 1934, but it's the right one for that car.
Okay, now this is a flathead V8, and that's 239 cubic inches, is that right?
Roughly.
Okay, and it has a 3-speed manual transmission.
3-speed with the plus reverse, right?
Okay. The other thing I noticed, it has wider wheels, but they're not the 16s, they're a little bit larger. They're the what, 17s?
Right, they had in 1934 they had a 17-inch. 32 they had an 18, 34 they had a 17, and then 35 they went to a 16. So
this is kind of a 1-year car basically.
33 and 4.
Yep. They made some changes and modifications. Beautiful running. And I see this running boards. It has a spare tire on the rear. Just a beautiful car, and you've owned it how many years now?
Well, how many ever it is? I've owned it 40 years.
Okay, so you've had it a little while. It's a beautiful car. Like I say, highly unusual. And from my information there, this is a very highly desirable Hero Ford I own, because you go on and buy one now, I'm sure it's probably going to cost you 50 to 100 grand.
Right. The grill is still original chrome on it. The grill hasn't been chromed, so none of the fenders have breaks in the beads. It's a very nice car.
Oh, very beautiful. Well, thanks a lot for sharing your car and your story with us. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Well, Larry, that was during the depth of the Depression, so they didn't make a lot of those cars. But I know you probably would like to buy a car like that, so I brought Hemmings Motor News with me today, and let's see what we can find in here. Larry, I found one for you. 1934 Deluxe Cabriolet, very sharp, recent cosmetic restoration, new paint, top. Okay, and you can buy this for only $99,900.
We'd get a matching set, Loren.
Yeah. Okay, here's the one that's a little cheaper in brown for only $79,500. So if you're looking for a deal, just think you go home and tell your wife you saved $20,000.
That'd be well received, I'm sure. It was bad
You'd be sleeping in the barn.
It would be bad enough when I came home with a backhoe.
Yeah. Well, that was just very interesting. Nice man. He's had it for a long year. That's a real treasure. Like I said, you can buy those, but it's going to run you a little bit of money.
Before I go to the next clip, I want some of you people to have some hope, keep the faith. When you watch the next clip, look really careful. You'll see green grass. I think we're going to get there eventually.
Well, I heard the snow is going to be gone by July 1st. So, okay, I also went to the next, went to the same car show, found another car. What was particularly interesting about this car for me, I've just recently purchased one that's similar, not completely restored, but that's very good original condition. It came from New Jersey. I purchased it. The guy was having mechanical troubles with it. Part of it is because he put alcohol gas in an old car, and that takes out the seal, so I had have the carburetor rebuilt and redo the fuel system, but it had 1,300 miles and a new long block. Not a rebuilt engine, brand new. But anyway, if we could play the second clip, please. Hello, we're at the Northern Lakes Car Show with Denny Mead. How you doing, Denny?
Very well.
I see you have a very unusual car here. It's this 1967 Cougar. Can you tell me, where did you find this car?
I met a car in Oakdale, Minnesota, on the side of the road for sale. It's a Texas car, no rust, a lot of dings, no rust.
Okay, now what drivetrain does this have?
It's a 289 two-barrel automatic, full car stock. I wanted to keep it stock.
It's automatic, floor shift, right?
Floor shift, console, bucket seats.
How many miles do you have on this car?
I got probably about 120 miles on it.
It goes down the road pretty good?
It's a great cruise car. Very good.
Now I noticed this car has air conditioning. That's kind of unusual for a 67. A lot of them didn't have that.
Yeah, especially the first year. Try to keep it at a low cost, but yeah,
Okay, basically, and you've owned it for how many years now?
I've had about 8 years.
And what did you basically have to do to the car?
I had to get all the dings out of it and just repaint it. I redid the grill. I did the bumpers. Really extensive, but I got to redo the upholstery. That ain't bad yet either.
So it's a nice survivor is what you're telling me. Very nice survivor.
That's what caught my eye.
You just don't see many of these. Well, thanks much for sharing your car story with us. Yeah, that was kind of interesting. That's what I ended up purchasing. Nice little car, not a hot rod, but...
Yeah, I'd like to mention, Loren, I noticed that his is pretty shiny. One advantage, I noticed you don't have to get out and wax yours on a weekend.
That's true. It's going to need some new paint, but it is a good solid. But anyway, we're shifting gears, and now we're going to... one of the things that you and I have been working on down at the legislature for about the last 2 years is House File 977...
Okay,
957 and Senate File 775. And both of us recently testified down at the legislature, and I did the kind of the background on it, and you did some follow-up with personal stories. We only were supposed to have 2 minutes. Of course, Wendy here took it a little bit longer. So if we could play clip 3, it's my testimony at the House of Representatives. My name is Loren Sederstrom. I'm from the city of Grant, and I just represent the normal citizens. I'm not a part of any particular group.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Loren Sederstrom, and I'm a retired business education teacher from White Bear High School, 29 years in the classroom. Now, over time, our knowledge of toxic substances has increased tremendously over the last 30 years. We didn't know 30 years ago what we know now. Science, we've gone to the moon, we've got computers. As a result, regulatory agencies are upgrading their standards to create a safer environment for us. We're not aware of things that used to cause cancer as carcinogens. Okay, here's the article, January 16th. In the Pioneer Press, the headline was, Plume may return to Superfund list. Until recently, the problem was largely considered solved, but the State Department of Health changed the guidelines. The department slashed the allowable level of chemicals to 0.4 parts per billion, less than 1/10 the previous allowable level. So in other words, they're becoming more aware of the things that can harm us. In my opinion, I believe that was a very wise decision. Also, most of you are aware, in the southeast area of Minneapolis, in Como, the problem with General Mills and the plume of PCE that is going through there, that's traveled approximately 1 mile. It's very difficult to contain these carcinogens. The next important point is we have to realize our children are our future. Like I said, I spent 29 years in the classroom helping young people. They should be as safe at school as they are at home. That's very important. The State Environmental Resource Center indicates that children are most vulnerable on 3 levels. First, and I wasn't aware of this, per pound, they take in more air, water, and food than adults do. The second thing is their undeveloped immune systems are not able to handle the toxins as well as adults. So when young people are exposed to toxins, they don't have the ability and the resiliency that adults do. That's very important. The last thing about that this pointed out was they have a longer period of time to develop the disease, their whole lifetime. Like with the Aaron Brockovich was in Fridley, there were 30 girls that went to their 20th reunion, and they all had the same brain cancer. What ended up coming out is she did the research, and it was next to a class 1 dump site, the high school. There wasn't, like 20, 30 years ago, that knowledge wasn't available. One of the last things is parents have a right to know. For example, in the school newsletters, if they use pesticides, herbicides, they have to notify them, or about asbestos, and air quality has to be included. Schools have to notify parents about this. So what I'm asking is, we'd like you to take your consideration and pass this bill, because our children are our future. Thank you for allowing me to address this group. There we go. Do you have anything to add to that?
I want to make it really clear that if you had the time to, or will take the time if you're interested in a healthier future, is to call your senators. Karen Housley probably represents us most in our area right here. Washington County. Senator Torres Ray, head of the Education Policy Committee. Call them, ask them to support this bill, move it on forward. Let's get it passed this year. It's like Aaron Brockovich says, why chance it? Because one of the things that Aaron's concerns have always been is he wants to prevent cancerous environments whenever possible, have awareness of the hidden dangers once determined that a human risk factor exists, and the opportunity for early detection that comes with the knowledge of one's surroundings. That being said, this bill addresses all three. Recently, most people don't realize that the school built on a Mahtomedi Superfund site exceeds residential levels in several areas, and that residential levels, like an example for TCEs, are 2 parts per million or billion, whatever that.
I think it's million.
Oh, look over. I got you. Okay. But the next level is for industrial applications, and is 20 parts. So
10 times higher.
10 times the risk, and that's why this bill says if it exceeds residential levels, the people simply have to have the right to know.
Well, the interesting thing about this particular bill also is the MPCA last year lobbied against it. This year they came in and wrote the standards. This is the 5th revision. The health department is reduced by 10 times the amount of certain toxins, and also by the MPCA saying, wait a minute, these schools have to meet residential levels. That's important. The kids should be, that's what I said in my little 2-minute speech, or was supposed to be 2 minutes, that kids should be just as safe at school as they are at home. Why would you,
before I move on, one quick one I'd like to make a statement is that there are 334 school districts in the state of Minnesota. The only one that came to testify against this legislation was the Mahtomedi School District. Do you think they have a vested interest in keeping your kids on a toxic site? Absolutely.
Well, as long as we're talking about Mahtomedi from that standpoint, recently in the paper, Pioneer Press, this was just in February 12th, plan seeks a school lunch guarantee. Mark Dayton wants plans to include $3.5 million in supplemental budgets so students cannot be denied a hot lunch. In worst cases, children are forced to dump the contents of their hot lunches in the garbage. It was exposed by Minnesota Legal Aid. Quote, no child in Minnesota should be denied a healthy lunch, Dayton said. Going on, the majority of the districts say they typically cover the hot meal. Among the 46 districts that eventually refused to provide a meal were St. Francis, Stillwater, Mahtomedi, West St. Paul, Mendota Heights, Egan school districts. So that's, and of course, Robin Rosario, he had a lot of press in that in his column, one of the things he said was, we serve prisoners 3 hot meals a day, yet in some places in this state and nation we deny a child a decent meal or toss it away to punish their parents through them. This 8-year-old was embarrassed, you know, because he forgot to put money in the account. So there were just a plethora of newspaper articles and outrage over this particular issue. Why would you punish an 8-year-old because of a slight infraction? And the other stupid thing is, if they would have the cashier at the beginning of the line, they wouldn't be embarrassing the kid and the food is gone anyway. Why would you throw it in the garbage? That's an absolute travesty. I can't understand it. But as long as we're on newspaper articles, I'm on a roll here. Another one, this was in February. It says, permission to stay rural. And that's, if you've ever been to Lake Elmo, there's a big, beautiful barn down there. It used to be a dairy barn. Now they're raising horses, I believe. And one of the things Met Council said initially there was going to be 1,700 homes in there. Now they've reduced it to 350. And the sewer project to serve a 317 home development. Well, that's kind of interesting. You know, they had this big lawsuit. They went for years and years. They wanted to keep Lake Elmo rural. In the corollary article, which is about 2 weeks later, is Met Council lowers population forecast, growth still expected. Part of the answer is the U.S. Census Bureau has revised its long-term national population and immigration projections. Across the county, households aren't forming or growing quite as quickly as once thought. Job growth and immigration-based populations expected to be softer nationally than previously projected. Average ages are expected to get older, and older populations don't grow as fast. They're going to revise their council. What's kind of interesting, this is a bureaucracy that puts their rose-colored glasses on, makes these projections, makes community jumps through hoops, put this a very large sewer line in, and I think you can add into this.
A good example is recently, I was on the, I'm as a member of the, as a vice chair of the Charter Commission for the city of Grant. Ironically, which is forced to hold their meetings in the city of Mahtomedi. I just wonder what the mayor is thinking there. But we had Harry Melander from the Met Council come speak to us, and Harry stated that currently the Twin City area is 17% minority. He says by the year 2030, they expect that we will increase, and the minority population in our Twin City local area will be 43% at that time. So they're actively seeking that out, but as they move ahead and do that, they're putting the infrastructure in right now to get that done. I just worked on a project for Lake Elmo. They put in 3 50 horsepower pumps. A typical lift station would probably have anywhere from a 5 to 10 horse and have 2 of them. This has 3 50 horse pumps capability in there, and they don't have enough people in there right now to pump the sewage into there, so it will go septic before those pumps will ever turn on, and that's not the procedure on it. But ironically, when Mahtomedi School District placed that school against our own comprehensive plan, against all of our resolutions, and where we were supposed to have well and septic, the mayor completely ignored it, cut the backroom deal so that it was never even brought to the planning commission as an option. He just said we're going to have well and city sewer and water for that school. So since that, it forced Mahtomedi to change its comprehensive plan to allow them to take the sewage from the city of Grant. And Mahtomedi took that one step further. Now that they are forced to take Grant sewage, what did they do last summer? If you drove along by FedEx and down by Lakeside, they doubled the capacity rate for their city, meaning they plan on bringing in sewer and water into Grant.
Well, what's interesting is the mayor had an emergency meeting on the 21st of April 2011 to approve the conditional use permit for the school. Interesting enough, that was at 5 o'clock. At 7 o'clock, he was in the Mahtomedi City Council, and they were getting approved a joint powers agreement. So talk about, you know, putting...
They're working hand in hand. If you bother to look up Mahtomedi's comprehensive plan, look up their schools back in 2010, and they wrote it in their comprehensive plan right before they come and asked to, you know, vote for the school bond. It said that when Wildwood and Mahtomedi School District decided to merge or change schools, they should put it on the O.H. Anderson site. It was written right into their comprehensive plan, but somewhere along the line, the school district chose to put it on a dump site. Ironically, just like the school district has chosen to put a 31% open enrollment plan in place, and since they've done that, I don't remember them ever refusing a kid a hot meal before, but now they can't afford it with all the open enrolled students, so we got to cut someplace, and we might as well cut the kids' lunch.
Well, what's interesting too, there's going to be a meeting coming up talking about open enrollment, and I will be there with my camera to keep you updated, because the Mark Larson, the superintendent, said, "Oh, we make money on each child." Well, that's bogus, because state aid was $6,800. They bring $6,000 with them, and they don't bring the levy money or that $800. And Mahtomedi used to spend $12,800 for each student. So you know, that was kind of a disingenuous false statement.
Loren, I want to correct you on that. The Mahtomedi School District does tell you they make money on the open enrolled students. What he neglects to tell you is that he gets it from the local taxpayer. Follow open enrollment, follow your local tax statement. You'll see that as open enrollment increases, so has our local dollars. So the school district makes money. He just forgets to tell you where he takes it from.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, now if we can roll the next clip, this is about the school lunches that we were talking about.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Way too often in Minnesota, what Governor Dayton, though, is hoping will help to make sure that no child goes unfed. But a new report shows some Minnesota schools are throwing away food in front of kids if they can't pay up. Mid-Minnesota Legal Aid surveyed 94% of school districts last year about their policies on school lunches for low-income kids. Mounds View Schools is one of 97 districts, though, that will always provide a hot lunch to a child even if they can't pay.
I don't see the point. I mean, it making an example of the student. It really isn't the student that's deficient in the lunch account. It's an adult issue.
Some districts will serve a different meal to kids if they can't pay, like a peanut butter sandwich. According to the report, though, 46 school districts refuse to serve hot lunch or even an alternative meal to a child who can't pay. Some of the districts include Inver Grove Heights, Mahtomedi, Osseo, West St. Paul, and Stillwater. Governor Dayton responded today by proposing more money for districts to cover lunches. He proposed $3.5 million for kids who can't pay. Right now, about 62,000 low-income students pay 40 cents for lunch. The rest is covered by public funds.
That was rather interesting. This Mr. Deluxe that they're bragging that how wonderful their school district is, and they're touting that they were rated as one of the top schools, and they can't even feed 8-year-olds a hot meal.
Well, if you look at if you take Wikipedia and you put in Delwood, White Bear Lake, City of Grant, Pine Springs, compared to the rest of the state, we are one of the wealthiest communities out here, and it just shows they chose to fund open enrollment over its own in-district kids. Like I said, I've never seen them previously cut back on food to kids before open enrollment, just as the sports they're threatening to cut back right now. We've never, in fact, we've went out and sought to get kids that fill up our teams. Now we have open enrollment, we have too many kids, and we can't fund the programs.
Well, remember that old song, There's Trouble in River City? Well, you can take River City out and put Mahtomedi in that song. That would work very well. Well, continuing along the Mahtomedi line, you know, one of the things that Grant has been working on as a charter commission, of course, you're the vice chair, and what they're trying to do is rein in a mayor that's out of control. He got rid of the planning commission, he kicked 4-H out of the town hall, and some of these issues are going to come up. They no longer have public comment. Well, they do, but they switch it to the end of the thing in the end of the meeting, and they turn off the cameras. They want no documentation. They do not want the public to know what's going on. Same thing with this Charter Commission. I've had to tape it myself and bring it in so it could be played on Channel 15 so the citizens can become aware and know what's going on. There's some real problems out there. And what we're coming to next is the last Charter Commission meeting, which was last Thursday. And now this is a 2-hour meeting, folks, so I could only take small clips, and I'm just trying to give you a flavor of what you're seeing. But the first clip we have is they're talking, we have public comment, and this is the gentleman that lives on, I believe it's Lost Lake. And he's been testing the water, him and the neighbors, for the last number of years for the DNR. And just recently, mercury has showed up in the lake, and that is a feeder lake that's right next to White Bear Lake. Until the sewer and water was put in for the Mahtomedi School, there was never a trace of mercury. And that's a very toxic chemical, as some of you folks know. So if we could play the next clip, please.
Regulated by the Minnesota Plumbing Code may not pass through contaminated soils. That's why I brought the pictures tonight. A horizontal separation of 10 feet must be maintained between the water line and the outer limit of the existing municipal waste dump. Removal of contaminated soil and backfilling with fill soil is not a permissible alternative. Please revise the plans as necessary. If the sewage tanks are located outside municipal easements, under municipal ownership, please provide the manufacturer, model number, and tank, and provide specific specifications for the pumping equipment. Please indicate the backflow prevention method or device to be used to protect the irrigation well. Please submit the requested information promptly so we may complete your plan for review. No construction related to the above referenced plans shall begin until approval by our office.
There. And you have some additional documentation?
I've got the actual documentation, and it came from the
Minnesota Department of Labor
and Industry. And just the first thing I'd like to have you note that this came out on March 25th, 2011. And it says, we are not able to grant approval at this time of the plans and specifications submitted for the above designated process. Now, this document came out less than a month before Mayor Carr had an illegal emergency meeting to approve the conditional use permit. Loren, you were the chair of the plan. Did you see the new submitted plans that were approved that so that Mr. Carr had the information to approve these documents? In other words, have you seen what he asked a signature for? Because it says they had to maintain a 10-foot separation between contaminated soils. And ironically, we got a letter from the State Plumbing Department also says that they don't do the environmental testing. That's up to the owner, the school district, to determine the contaminated site and whether they maintain a 10-foot separation.
We have a clip on that also. You'll be seeing a clip on that. So as long as we're talking about that clip, let's go to the next clip, and it talks about this testing that was supposed to be done that hasn't been so far.
Minimum horizontal separation between portable water service lines and any source of pollution that may contaminate the potable water supply. To date, our plan review engineer has received confirmation from the project design engineer that a 10-foot separation is provided to meet the code. That's why I have the pictures. We also received information from the project engineer indicating that the free test strip will be conducted in the presence of owners, environmental engineer. Locations will be recorded to ensure that 10-foot horizontal separation from the environmental engineer. Locations will be recorded to ensure that 10-foot horizontal separation from the contaminating source and outside of the water supply pipe. In addition, the environmental engineer will test the soils. Prior to backfilling, our responsibilities as it relates to the water supply service line is to perform code compliance, review and conduct inspections to the Minnesota Plumbing Code.
Well, they're saying that the tests must have been done. To date, as far as I know, there have been no tests. That was supposed to be tested before they even backfilled it. And we have some pictures, we don't have them with us today, of where you could see that where they dug to put in the sewer line.
Dug right through a contaminated site, and that's
you can see all the garbage in the digging.
It's exactly the same information, Loren, that we've been telling the people earlier that, like in General Mills, anytime they run a sewer line, gas line, it opens up a raceway and trench to, go throughout your whole community.
Because of the contaminants take the path of least resistance.
And that's why the state labor and industry said you cannot do it until you come up with a plan and you can prove that you did not go through contaminated soils. I've yet to see the document that states that they had a plan. This thing got rushed right through there against the city of Grant's own resolutions and comp plans. So,
well, we have one more clip in this, gentleman. I had to break it down because he talked about 10, 12 minutes, so I just want to bring you the nuggets, if I may. So if we could play the next clip, please.
The pictures that I have, I don't see a 10-foot separation there. Based on this information, this does not pass the smell test. Who voted to poison our children, teachers, and area residents? Who is liable for any future illnesses associated with this former dump? I'd like you to provide me the documentation of who signed off on the new plan, and can you assure me that Mahtomedi's contamination is not coming from the new Wildwood Elementary School and former dump? Whose obligation is it to protect the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens?
There we go.
Loren, if I could touch really briefly on the who is liable. There's a letter, and it was written from Mark Larson to PhD chemist Catherine Brown, and it says we told that there's not any. He doesn't feel that. Well, they took up 550 tons, which amounts to 55 truckloads. I talked to the owner of the family that owned Bel Air. They figured they had 350 to 400,000 truckloads in there over the history of the dump. I think with 55 truckloads, they didn't get it all, but Mr. Larson said, who is liable for any mistakes? And it says, we're confident that there aren't any mistakes, but I believe so it'll be the MPC as they approve for the land for usage. So he's not taking liability. We got the documentation from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. It says that no MPC, its commissioners and staff do not assume any liability for any mistakes, threatened release, or any other conditions. It also states that its commission staff do not warrant that the site is suitable or appropriate for any particular use. We got documentation from the state attorney general.
The next clip we have is very interesting because this is when there's one of the council members and the mayor on. The mayor wasn't there, obviously, but he asked to put this on the agenda, and he requested it once last month. It never saw the light of day. And so let's play the next clip, and you see what happens.
Again tonight, can we get this put on the agenda?
You can request to have it put on, but
I am formally requesting for the second time now to have it put on.
You would need to request it from the city clerk administrator. I can certainly take the information and bring it to her, but this board doesn't set the agenda for the city council meetings.
No. We basically do not have any input into this Grant City Council, so you'll have to go through them. We only offer a venue for you to state your...
The way I understand it, as part of the conditional use permit, there's supposed to be testing done 3 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see copies of those tests.
Is it the state that's...
That's what he's looking for. And so that's kind of interesting. The guy's concerned. He's got mercury showing up in the lake that's behind his house. And it didn't occur until the sewage line went through.
Actually, if you followed that Charter Commission meeting, you would see that it was brought to Steve Bonin as a council member, and Mr. Huber was actually showed up at that
another council person
at that meeting, that it only takes one councilman to ask to have something put on the agenda. And so they put it on the agenda, and so Steve said he would put this request on to be put on the agenda, actually, because I brought out to him that he has the authority to do it himself, and we asked for him to commit, and he said yes, he would commit to have it put on the agenda. He said, but don't hold up your hopes. He says, I believe if I put it on there, the mayor will take it off. Much like public comment, when they had that policy, you get a signature from a council member, and if the mayor decides he doesn't like it, he doesn't hear it.
Again, we're getting back to the Crown and Scepter area. Okay, we have another real short clip here with the council member we're just talking about, Steve Bonin. If we could play the next clip.
Madam Chair, for that very detailed letter to the judge. I know that took quite a bit of time to put that all together. I think it's extremely accurate, and it depicts the situation pretty well. And it's, for me, it's a little bit embarrassing that the city council will not allow us to meet in our own council chambers. Mm-hmm. And I'm very thankful to Mahtomedi to allow us to meet here. This is a beautiful space that they're allowing us to use, and I would like to make sure they all know that we appreciate this space until we can work out something in our own city to have our meetings where they should be.
Right.
Good luck with that. That isn't going to happen anytime soon.
It'll be a cold day in February.
Yeah, but the same chance of that happening is a snowball in a pizza oven. But anyway, we're going on with this. This is some more clips we're going to continue on. We're going to end up and have a discussion with the little bombshell that was dropped. But going on along the same public comment, there's another, Bob came up and said he had a concern. So if we could play the next clip.
832's amended CUP. Now, while the document is approximately 5 pages long, I think item number 14 is the strongest one that we should look at. And that is, they agreed by accepting the CUP to do water testing and that they would meet the stormwater management levels. Now, a couple of city council meetings back, this question was placed to the council, which turned to our city engineer and said, and his comment was, well, we've got it for compaction. So they have not had, since 2011, any water testing done on the athletic field, because that's what this is for. Now, I reviewed my tapes that I was there, and I reported all the construction that was done, and they never drilled a hole, a well, for water testing. Maybe they planned on just scooping it off the surface, I don't know, but our city...
Again, you're probably getting the sense that there's many concerned citizens out there. When I was a chair of the Planning Commission, we ran the meetings till midnight from 7 o'clock. There was lines and lines of people. If we could get a close-up of this next picture. There we go.
They can take it right off the surface. If you look at this gray matter, it's oozing out
it's
on
rusty
the ground.
Colored. You could also see if you've noticed on a mud puddle when you drop a drop of oil, there's kind of a little rainbow
it's a
color.
sheen, yep.
And the same thing that's on there, and they went out and tested it.
They don't have to go too far. It's coming right out of the ground, and it's at the base of the leach fields for the dump. They
and
don't
it was
have to
tested
go far.
because a citizen said, well, that's a request, and said, well, fine, we'll do the Data Practices Act, and it was cheaper for them to test the soil than do the data practices, so they did it. But the interesting thing is there's 80,000 different compounds and chemicals. You know, they only test for 2 or 3. If you don't specifically test for TCE, PCBs, lead, pesticides, and there's many pesticides, then how are you going to know? So if you run a test on 2 or 3 things, what about the other, you know, 79,997 items? Obviously, you wouldn't run that many tests, but there's probably 10 or 20 tests that could be run. The second thing important to realize is MPCA does none of their own testing. So, you know, it's kind of a shot in the dark. The other thing is that we have a second clip with this gentleman, and he's talking about the CUP, the conditional use permit for the school. Now, this is just a real brief clip, so if we could show that control room.
City water, sewer, and other utilities, which came out of our own comprehensive plan, dated 2008, and updated update number 87, which states that the goal was to maintain the rural character of the community, including the density appropriate to the diversity of rural and agricultural area and the use of on-site water and sewer services.
Well, that's the comp plan, and
I think, Loren, one of the important things that we might, if we cannot get the documentation from our own city council and they're not forthcoming for this gentleman, I think the next step should be, as Washington County is opening up other Superfund sites again, these brownfields, designate them Superfund sites. If they're not forthcoming, I think we go to the national level and we insist that this be opened up as a Superfund site again, get the federal level involved, and then we will find out, are our kids safe on that site? Because that's really, his concern is that we ran sewer and water through something that was not properly done. Now his lake is contaminated. It's left the site where it was, and now it's going into the city of Mahtomedi, possibly into White Bear Lake. Maybe we need to redesignate Bel Air Sanitation, take it out of the voluntary program, which we all know is nothing more than a Band-Aid. They put 24 inches of clay, as indicated that when installing the irrigation system, you can't go over 18 inches deep, you'll break the seal of the dump. So maybe it's time we just have that redesignated as a Superfund site, and I think that's something the citizens, if they cannot get satisfaction from the city, it's the next level.
It's kind of like they're handing out Band-Aids to victims of a train wreck. A Band-Aid and aspirin, well, we'll sew your leg on later. But yeah, this is a symptom of a larger problem, ladies and gentlemen. There's been a lot of cloak and dagger, secrecy stuff, behind the door dealings, changes to comp plans and things that shouldn't have been done. And again, that's why the citizens of Grant were so upset, and that's why they're going through the extraordinary procedure to have a charter. They want to rein in some of the stuff that's going on. And the last election was a little bit shaky. They hauled in 2 busloads of people from Cedar Ridge Treatment Center. They also had, being they've worked with the school closely, they got the seniors to absentee vote from college. Well, now, these kids aren't paying a dime in taxes. What has happened is our taxes approximately have doubled. 53% of every tax dollar goes to the school district. We can't fix their roads, but we're going to have Spanish in first grade.
Actually, the most important part is, Loren, and you documented on your show already, when the school district was having these meetings with the city mayors behind closed doors, and a cameraman showed up, and we have good documentation, they simply threw him out under threat of arrest. These deals are being cut behind closed doors, and it's coming back to bite the school district.
Well, maybe this superintendent's going to leave like the last one because he busted a couple loads of kids to vote to get this thing passed. Okay, now we're shifting gears a little bit. Again, the citizens of Grant have no venue. They have no method for public comment or addressing anything. But one of the things we have is the GRP, or the Grant Restoration Project. It's a group of concerned citizens. Sometimes people characterize Grant as a bunch of rebel-rousers. That's not true. It's a middle-class community. People come out to to grant because they want to provide a safe environment for their children. They enroll them in 4-H so they can learn about civic consciousness, social responsibility. Maybe it's they have a chicken project. I know there's an executive a couple miles down the road in one of the new additions, and he has 5-10 acres. But he has his 3 children have chickens, and they're in 4-H. Now, guy making $400,000 or $500,000 a year doesn't have his kids raise chickens for eggs. But what he's trying to do is teach them life lessons, taking care of an animal, life and death, those types of things. So we also have a scholarship that's coming up. And
well, let's let Lisa talk about the scholarship, and then we won't save ourselves a little time.
All right. Could play the next clip, please.
GRP, the Grant Restoration Project, and I'm proud of my affiliation. The GRP is a grassroots organization created in 2010 by Larry Lanou and by Bill David, along with several volunteers. The goal is to restore resident participation in community life while providing a positive voice for the betterment of the community. In the past, the GRP organized 3 successful citywide cleanup days and 4 annual Heritage Day tractor parade events. They included 100 tractors driven by local residents, and over 600 residents participated in a free picnic lunch. So you'd see the copy of the brochure that we use for promoting. And last year we had over 50 different businesses sponsor the event. And for Grant, I would say that's a huge success. So you would see on the inside of the brochure the different sponsors that were involved. And the sponsors then helped to make the event successful. But last year we raised enough money so that we're offering 3 $1,000 youth scholarships.
There, you might want to expand upon that a little bit.
Yeah, if I can touch, if you go back to the website, and it's www.thegrp.org, and by the end of this week, we will have scholarship applications. There'll be 3 2-part scholarships. Half the money goes to continue the youth education. The other half of that $1,000 scholarship will go to a charity of their choice, so they learn the value of giving back to their community. And remember, there are 3 $1,000 youth scholarships available, so please go to the GRP website. If you have a youth that you want to bring out and make an application, and keep in mind, the goal of the GRP is to restore community pride. Recently, we've kind of driven 4-H out of our community, where 4-H used to have an event, and they painted our city hall, they painted our fence. Now the city's policy is let some people, release some people out on the Huber Law, and they can come paint our fences. In fact, they use the state's program to release people to redo our city.
Well, did they name that law after our councilman or not?
I don't know the state councilman, but actually it is called Sentenced to Serve. So they were not there by choice, they were directed to, and it's just wasted a great opportunity to teach our youth.
Well, the next clip we have is going to be a little bit long, but this is one of the great matrons of 4-H that's going to speak. She actually was a 4-H leader for 50 years. Now, if that isn't, you know, civic consciousness.
Let Joyce talk for herself, because I think we're going to be running a little short. But
bear with us on this clip. But I think if we can play that clip, please.
The least was the yearly annual spring roadside cleanup with our parents and our 4-H leaders living in our community, and even those not living in our community. But that's how popular it was, and could it be then? But I have been in the club for 50 years. But the most devastating point was to take the pride and joy out of the 4-H club was the unknown disappearance and dismantling of our club banners in the city hall. You've been there, you've seen them. They disappeared I didn't know where they were, but we were told they were finally over at the town hall. I wish they'd have brought them to my place, but they don't know where I live, evidently. As well as hanging our 50th year historic banner in our historic town hall, a little side note that in 1962, when I became leader, guess how we got the heat into the town hall? I had to go up with a little match. We got the key from Bill Gunderson, and their pictures are on, the son's pictures are on the front of that city book that I gave you. The two little boys sitting down are the twins that live in Grant, Joe and David Gunderson. And there's another one, Art and his sister identified them at home on the front cover. And I'm not sure I could tell you who the other ones are, but there's 3 Gundersons on there. But I used to get the key from Mr. Gunderson, go up with a match and light that burner, turn it on, wait for it to come through. Yeah, but that's long gone. Actually, the barrel that contained the fuel oil is sitting down in my second driveway. They didn't know what to do with it, but I said, oh well, park it there. Now I want to get rid of it. But nobody wants it, of course. Gene used to set traps in the building as well to catch the little critters. They weren't so bad because they cleaned up after the meetings. But we now have a vacuum cleaner, the one that is there now that the club furnished, as well as the flag that hangs overhead. But then, the bomb was dropped when the car chose to dismiss me from my volunteering, all but before he told me. What he did not realize that by my dismissals, the 4-H also felt dismissed from the city of Grant, and thus they moved out. I do, and I have challenged him to uphold our ordinances and comp plan that our forefathers worked so long and hard to put together. Don't ask me if I voted for him that year. I did coerce a few 4-Hers to support the GRP who took over the yearly roadside cleanup. I remember to call it the roadside cleanup because just a little later I'll comment about his version of what's going to happen, but it may happen like it did last year. People start cleaning out the garage, the basement. That was the idea of township cleanup, roadside cleanup when we had it. And so I did coerce a few 4-Hers to support the GLP. After they took over, they did one better than the GRP. The GLP did one better than the 4-H. We only served our ice cream, but the GRP served a noon picnic lunch to everyone who worked.
That was very interesting. She chronicled a number of issues. There now, the mayor decided not to endorse anyone for the cleanup, and then he said is basically going to run its course again. This comes back to citizen participation, and Lisa had mentioned.
The highlight of what, if you listen to Joyce, if you pulled it out, is the year she decided she was not going to endorse Tom for re-election. So the first thing on the appointment list he did was he removed her from the fire warden, removed her from roadside cleanup, removed her from the memorial ballpark, the scheduling, which, by the way, her family put all the money investment into that. It's named the Dean Arthur Welander Park. The only thing he could not remove her from was 4-H, so he removed all the banners and eventually removed 4-H from the community.
And that's sad because it's so wonderful and that's why people come out there, develop social responsibility in their children's civic consciousness. And, you know, he's been doing a lot of things. And
he takes more pride in sentence of serve and having people come out there than the youth. So.
And we're now shifting gears to the last part of this. We've been trying, they won't let us meet in the town hall. Suburban Community Cables allows $2,500 a year for meetings. That's up to 4 meetings a month that they will pay for the technician. Well, the mayor refuses to do that. the SCC reimburses the city. We ask them to have someone do that. So I've currently been taking lessons in getting trained, and that's why some of the sound isn't quite the way it should, because of course my nickname's Low Tech Loren. I have some, I don't learn it quite as rapidly as the young people do.
Let's let Paul kind of indicate
Paul
here.
is going to go, and that's what this is about. So if we play the last clip, please.
They try to remove him through the district court for intimidation, if you truly believe that. I think you'd have to have a pretty strong resolution or pretty strong facts. I mean, you'd have to have this young man sign an affidavit or actually come before the commission and indicate what the mayor said, and I think anyone could make a motion at that time to remove Tom Carr, but ultimately the district judge has the authority to remove members only. So it'd be the district judge, in my opinion. Now, that's a quick rough-hand view of it, but that comes from the statute.
Thank you, Paul.
You have another comment, Paul? Were you going to make another comment?
No.
Oh. Well, certainly that would require some legal expertise in doing. I don't know if that will restore the video and recording, which is of concern. But I guess it's really very disappointing that we would have this type of thing alleged to have happened. But we do know that there's a vacancy over there this evening. So there's perhaps some truth to the matter. And I think it bears examining. And I would like to think that perhaps if the allegation is correct, I would like to think that Mr. Carr would like to come forward and at least present his. I don't know if we have that type of jurisdiction.
Good. Well, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, Loren, actually I would like the mayor to come forward, and we've got resolutions allowing cable on rebroadcasting, although Mayor Carr originally is the one that voted against it. So he believes whatever he says goes. We have the right to be on the website, and I think we should be on a website. And this charter to be successful, so we can get citizen participation, get our basic freedoms back, enter the right to assemble, right to freedom of speech. I think Mr. Carr has to come down and articulate what give him the authority. Kenny Ronan, who come in and took the time to record it for us, is not an employee of the city. Who directed him to call him?
Tom Carr to call the...
for Tom Carr to
call an SCC employee.
And an employee and intimidate him and question how it got paid for, whether it's legal or not. He did this all on his own as a rogue move. I think it's time Mr. Carr gets held accountable. I can give you many, many instances in citing the school on a dump site, how we violated our own resolutions. The one thing Mr. Carr does not do is if you look, this is our city code book, folks. If you look at all that's in there, there's plenty of information him to go for. He doesn't need to make up the rules as he goes. We have plenty of rules. It's time he's held accountable.
Well, that pretty much covers it for this week's, folks. We're getting down to the wire. And we'll be following this along. I'll be bringing you more shots of the next city council meeting, the next charter commission meeting. I guess what my concern is the last time they passed that ordinance change where they could put supper clubs in A2, which is large agricultural areas. To me, that's a violation. That's something, it's called leapfrog development. They're not paying attention to the
They're not following their own code book. They've dismissed the planning commission, and it says it's a planning commission that must review.
Until next time, 7 o'clock Monday night, folks, we'll keep you in tune with what's happening in all around Grant.